Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. Uh, Last week, I talked a little bit about some of the things that you need to look at doing just to minimize the distress, if you will, the family distress uh, associated with the holiday season and having to do some things that are out of the normal routine. And this week, I thought I'd go a little bit more into detail into why some of these things are problems, particularly for ADHDers. Um, as you probably know by now, they respond a little differently to some things than kids who are neurotypical, the kids who don't have ADHD. And it always is better to be planning ahead than trying to catch up. Okay, first one I'll talk about is diet. Okay, we have the holidays, and the holidays are characterized by lots and lots of desserts and snacks and other things that are high sugar, basically. And high sugar is a particular issue for ADHDers. Okay, our bodies are designed to function at their best when our blood sugar level is right in the normal range. Okay, when we are outside that normal range, all of us are a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, and the outside that range is either hyperglycemic, which means you got too much sugar on board, or hypoglycemic means you don't have as much as your body considers to be normal. Okay, so the way this works is you're walking along, say you've had a normal breakfast and your blood sugar is about where it should be, and then you hit the candy dish and you get a whole bunch of sugar on board all of a sudden. So your blood sugar level goes from normal to up at the peak, up at the peak. Okay? Now, for all of us, that's a little bit uncomfortable. If you've ever, like we just had Halloween, if you've ever kind of gotten a little bit more into the candy bowl than you should have, that kind of shaky kind of feeling you get when you've got too much sugar on board. Well, for those of us who are neurotypical, I assume, it's not as bad. It's a little uncomfortable, but it kind of goes away after a while because what happens when it's too high? You start secreting a bunch of insulin to bring it down. Problem with it is that it tends to bring it down too low. So you go from hyperglycemic, which means you got too much on board, to hypoglycemic, which means you don't have as much sugar as you need to feel normal. Now, for any of us, that's kind of uncomfortable. But I know people who've lived that way for years. They have a Coke and a candy bar for breakfast, and then about an hour later, they have another one, and then another one, and so on. They go all day like that with their blood sugar doing this number. Your ADHD child, though, and I know this from personal experience with my own ADHD child, is they get downright ornery. Okay, it's not fun to be around them when they're, on either end of it, either real high or real low. Okay, so for you and for everybody around you, you want to make sure that they don't get just a whole dose of pure sugar. Try to mix it in with some protein. Okay, and that can go everywhere from a slice of turkey to a handful of nuts. But if you mix that in a little bit, the extremes in the blood sugar are not so much. And that will that will save your nerves a good bit of problems. Uh, your ADHD child, and I know my own, and I know a lot of other people's ADHD children. When they have too much sugar on board, they are even more fidgety and hyper than normal. And when you and then, the going from hyperglycemic to hypoglycemic is fast. I mean, it's only like 30 minutes or so, probably a little less, because your body, that it registers how high your blood sugar is, and it's going, oh my God, this is an emergency. So boom, your pancreas starts secreting a whole bunch of insulin, and bam, your blood sugar goes way down, lower than it should be. And neither one of those ways is the way of feeling normal. Matter of fact, a lot of times people who don't know exactly what's going on will do is they'll eat some more candy because they know they felt pretty good while their blood sugar was increasing. But when you keep doing that, the effect gets stronger and stronger, and you get more and more irritable. And I don't know about you, but I've been in a room full of irritable ADHDers, and it's not a picnic. Okay, then the next thing, and then like I said, mix in some protein. Get them a lot of protein. Well, it kind of balances it out in there so that their blood sugar stays closer to normal. Ideally, you kind of restrict. You don't just leave them alone with a half pound of M&Ms. It's not going to be a good thing. Okay, so there's that. The next thing about ADHDers is their sleep. Okay, we all, whether we acknowledge it or not, we all need to have a routine sleep pattern. It works better for everybody if they have a pattern and they stick with it. If it's 6 o'clock in the morning, fine. If it's 8 o'clock in the morning, fine. As long as your job and all the rest of it isn't interfered with. But you need to stay with the routine. Because even for an adult, if you go from getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to sleeping in until noon, you're going to be all messed up. You're going to be irritable, and you're not going to be alert, and life is just not good. And this is if you don't have ADHD. If you have ADHD, it's even a worse reaction. You've broken the routine rule, and you get more irritable. And again, that's no fun for anybody around your ADHD child. So sleep is important. It's important that you stay as close to the normal sleep pattern as possible. You don't want to be, letting them stay up all night, or, go over with your cousin and play video games or something until 2 o'clock in the morning. No, not good. You will pay for it later, and you won't like it. I guarantee. Okay, and that sleep is just part of it. You want the routine to be generally the same. You don't want the routine to get way out of whack. You don't want the meal times to be real different. You don't want the energy level, the exercise level to be really different. You want to keep that as close to what they're used to as possible. And they will therefore feel less, they'll just have fewer problems adapting and adjusting. The other thing is, while you've got all the adults running around doing stuff, cooking, carving, chopping, setting the dinner table, all these other things. It's important that your ADHD child, as soon as possible, be involved in some way so they feel like they're part of the thing, part of the whole activity level, and that they're not just sitting there waiting for something to happen, because they don't do boredom very well, as we know. Plus, they like to feel like they're part of the crowd, part of what everybody else is doing. ADHD, it can be a very isolating experience, because I've said it most every episode that I've managed to work it in, that an ADHDer, the average ADHDer, gets 70 critical comments a day. So they don't feel like they're part of the thing. So you need to involve them, to the extent that they're capable of doing it. It may be something like setting the table, and if they're too little or too rambunctious to trust them with the fine china, get them to put the silverware on the table. But let them have the sense of some accomplishment. And then, probably the last major point is exercise. Exercise is terribly important for ADHDers. Excuse me. Matter of fact, some people think that ADHDers respond better to exercise than to almost any other treatment modality. What you want is 45 to 60 minutes of pretty intense aerobic kinds of activities: running, jumping, playing basketball, playing soccer, going for a hike, going for a bike ride. Something active though, that they're they get their heart rate up and they maybe get sweaty, and that they're working, that their body is having to produce. What that does is that excuse me, increases the neurotransmitters that your body or your brain needs to send you the signal that things are all right. Okay, things are pretty good. And there are some people who work with ADHD that indicate, or they think that an hour of aerobic exercise is good for 8 hours of increased productivity. I guess that's a little high, but it's you get at least 4, I know for sure, and sometimes you may get a little bit more. But exercise is vital. Okay, you want these kids to have a lot going on, and it can be, some families, like the Kennedys used to play touch football in the holidays. Whatever, if your family is that active and that athletic, great, go for it. Whatever the game is, basketball, touch football, whatever, maybe even a road race. It's up to you. It's up to you, and your family, and what they will put up with, and what they're comfortable doing. But if you can make it a competition, even better. Okay, because then it's something to look forward to, and not something that you're kind of trying to figure out how to get them to do it. If everybody plays touch football, then they'll play touch football too. So those are the biggies. Okay, those are the biggies. And if you keep track of those things, that will pretty much ensure that life is a little bit more routine and relaxed over the holidays. Of course, the other thing you've got to watch out for is sometimes, I know we all have relatives. We didn't pick our relatives. They were kind of given to us. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's not so okay. But you got to watch out for a number of things. You got to watch out for the cousin that wants to bully your kid, and be on the lookout for that one. And also you may have some. Oh, it's usually a distant uncle, that just kind of, kid just needs a good dose of discipline. He just, that's all. You don't show him the back of your hand often enough, or something prehistoric like that. You want to, do the best you can with kind of, minimizing that kind of stuff. Okay, you're not gonna take him aside probably and give him a lecture and have it work out very well. But you can limit the amount of involvement your child has with this uncle, and you know, you got to use your judgment on this one. You know, there are some families where you can get away with just standing up and saying, "Look, enough of that crap," you know, and that works. But for a lot of them, especially like mine, yeah, that wouldn't do well. So you've got to, just be on the lookout for that. And I don't mean in a hyper vigilant sort of way. I mean just know that this stuff happens, and it doesn't help your young man or young lady. Uh, and since they already have a lot of trouble with feeling different, it doesn't help them to uh, be singled out as somehow a mistake, or something that isn't working quite right. They get enough of that. Okay, that is what I've got. I hope you can use some of this stuff to get through the holidays with some enjoyment, and the ability to take the holidays for the values and blessings they're supposed to represent. Okay, we will catch you later. I am Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. So remember, ADHDers are outside the box thinkers. They're the people who see things differently from a different perspective. And we need them. Our neurotypical thinkers are great at keeping the system going just the way it is. They aren't always so great at seeing the changes that are possible, or the things we could do to improve things. That's why we need ADHDers, okay? So, good luck to you, and cherish your ADHD child, okay?